Welcome back to Podcast Recovery. We are your hosts, David O.
And Eric B.
Today we are joined by John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, man.
Grateful to be here.
Absolutely. Where are you from?
Dundalk originally.
Dundalk, Maryland.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great place.
I don't really come out and say it, but there's no one here to laugh.
Yeah, it's Dundalk. That's that.
It's got its own rep.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it does.
When were you first introduced to recovery?
At an early age, my father was in and out of the rooms. He was one of those people who was my, best friend. I looked up to him, funniest guy, and he had that dark side of him, that one that would, come out when he was drinking. And I know he went to AA a couple times. He was in and out of the rooms. He had at least a month sober from what I'm aware of, what I can remember. But he... earliest memories of AA is going in the rooms with him, smoke-filled rooms, churches, the whole deal, dessert. So that was early age, probably like 8 years old.
Wow, nice. And you still became an addict.
Yeah, here I am.
Yeah. Some would say you were an addict before. Anyway, we'll get to that. How long have you been sober?
I've been sober since March 4th, 2014.
Awesome.
So coming up on 5 years.
Dude, the big 5 is awesome. My 5 year was awesome.
It's gone by so quick, but so much has happened in that span of time.
Yeah.
And you always get into that reflective mode when you're coming up on an anniversary.
100%. All right. Well, without further ado, without anything else from Eric, which he never has anything else.
It's just rude.
You're
It's
rude.
just rude.
Turning it over to you, man. Share your story with us.
My name is John F. I'm an alcoholic. As mentioned, my sober date is March 4th, 2014. And I came into the rooms of recovery with absolutely nothing. And in return, I've received everything. Early on, I came in here with one single purpose, which was just to stay sober. I just wanted to get sober. That's all I wanted to do. But in turn, I learned how to live life. And as a result of that, my life nowadays, it's honestly, I can't even remember what it was like before, I came into the rooms. I'm just a different person, changed, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. So I guess I'll just start from the top. I was born the first of 4 boys from Dundalk, Maryland. Had a loving family growing up.
I have 4 sisters.
Really?
Fuck me, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Involved in sports my entire life. Really early age, soccer, baseball. My earliest memories are my mom and my father, who was my coach, traveling from field to field, playing on 3 different soccer teams all in a weekend span. And that's what we did. And I loved every minute of it. Had a lot of friends. My brothers were my best friends. And, my dad, I would have to say, would be in that category as well as my best friend. Funny, loving guy, always on point too. And always had that witty comeback to everything, you know? Yeah. And I looked up to him. He was my hero. But as I mentioned before, he had a drinking problem and a using problem too. So I know, he would... be my, best friend one minute and then come home one night and just verbally assault me, call me names, the whole deal, and just take out I guess all his, frustration, on me because I'm, I guess, the oldest at the time, you know? So, my mom would kick him out of the house. He had DUIs. He would be gone for a weekend, come back, and, you just accept that as normal life, and that's what I grew up with, so that's what I'm used to. And one day, he left, and again, you're thinking he'll be back Monday. And we'll start the whole thing over.
Oh yeah, man.
Monday comes, getting ready for school. Cops knock on the door, and they're like, "I hate to tell you this, but your father was found in a hotel room, cocaine overdose, and drank himself, drunk and." Cocaine overdose is how he died, heart failure. So
Jesus.
That was at 10 years old. Middle brother's 8. My twin brothers are 6. My mom had 4 boys. So early on at that age, you're told you're the man of the house now.
Yeah.
You got to take care of this. And I don't know what it was about me, but I never dealt with, I never cried or anything. I didn't know how to feel. You know what I'm saying? Because you're just in utter shock. 1 minute he's there, 1 minute he's gone, and you still have that 10-year-old naivete where you're like, hey, I think there's a chance he can come back. I've seen it in movies. That's how it usually plays out. But that's not the case. This is real life. So, and I just quit sports at that time. Because I associated sports with my father so much that I just didn't want to play anymore. I lost that fire, that passion to play. And then, high school comes around. I attend Archbishop Curley High School in Baltimore City.
Nice.
And it's a private school, all boys. I was Catholic educated. We went to Catholic school, every Catholic Mass, Our Lady of Hope St. Luke's School, middle school, and then all boys school and Catholic school and high school. And it wasn't honestly, I'll backtrack a little bit. In 5th grade, I got diagnosed with ADHD because, that's the same time my father died. I'm acting out of class. Teachers can't control me, so just give him Adderall. I always was my mom's like, you want one of your pills? And I always associated that with a feeling. That feeling was happiness. I'd take that pill. I'm happy now, And all those feelings are, away from me. So, and, I go to high school. I have a knack for, when I find something, when I'm in a new environment, I put my best foot forward, right?
Yeah.
And I try hard and, I try my best, and then you get comfortable, then you slack back. So I'm getting good grades.
100%. Oh, yeah.
I'm getting good grades early on, and I just noticed, all the, cool kids in school were the ones, partying and drinking and getting high and stuff. And I was like, well, they're all the ones going to the parties with the girls. I'm in an all-guy school, so it's, I seen girls all day. All you got to worry about is some dude nuggeting your book bag or calling you a dork or something,
Yeah.
Nuggeting. I haven't thought about that shit in forever.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, what the fuck is that?
It's when they flip your book bag inside out and draw dicks on it and stuff usually.
What?
You never had you never seen someone's book bag get nuggeted?
No.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing where, no.
Yeah.
Howard County kids, I don't know what to say.
Fuck you,
Baltimore
Eric.
City too, so.
Fuck you, Eric. All right.
So I start smoking weed, start drinking. My first drunk, it was just stupid. It was I guess a pint of, I think it was a handle of Jim Beam. And
You ruined my question. Damn it. My first question is always, what do you remember your first drink? So a pint of Jim Beam?
Pint of Jim Beam, right? And
The whole thing?
I tried.
Okay.
I tried. You don't know what it is. You're just pouring shot after shot.
Yeah,
and all of a
that's
sudden,
true.
it's spinning. You puke up crab soup from the night. A couple hours before. It's gross.
Yeah.
And then I was in a Chevy Celebrity at the time. That was my car. It's
Nice.
No, it's you go to a parking lot. It's the worst car in any parking lot.
Oh, yeah. That's a POS.
Yeah, but and on top of that, it was hood damage, so the hood was a different color from the rest of the car. So the car is light blue and the hood's dark blue. All because I was picking up my mom from school. She taught at St. Rita's, which is a Catholic school. Mm-hmm. And going to pick her up, and I realized I had half a blunt in my on the driver, the passenger side, right in the, what's that called? Right by the door handle in the bottom. But
the side compartment.
Yeah, side compartment.
Yeah, so I was trying to reach for it, and I hit a smack apart car. So now I have a Chevy Celebrity.
Nice.
So I wake up the next morning, go to back it out, and I back out into his power box for the neighborhood, and it just knocks out the power. And they're like, yeah, well, I didn't find this out till later on. They told me, yeah, we didn't have power for 3 days because you backed into that. So it's just whatever, man. It's,
my bad.
So I just do good enough to get by. So I get I get a scholarship to go to Towson, and it's just too close to home. I want to get out, venture off on my own, and it's just okay, I've already known what it's like here. Let me experience a new environment. So I go to Mount St. Mary's University, and I'm like, okay, it's just far away enough from home, and it's just close enough to home if I want to go. Mm-hmm. So I went to college there, got scholarships and everything.
How much different is St. Mary's County from
It's Mount St. Mary's. It's in Emmitsburg, actually.
Oh, okay. So that's Frederick County?
Yeah, so just think about Gettysburg or Camp David.
I heard St. Mary's. I was like, St. Mary's County.
Yeah, it's different. There's Mount St. Mary's is different.
Oh, okay.
So again, go in there and get good grades my first semester. Then all of a sudden you go from an all guy school to females, right? And the party's on, man.
Oh yeah.
And it was honestly drink till you're blackout. And when I graduated from Natural Light, because that was the beer that you could drink and seem like a beast, because like
you can crush like 30 of them bitches.
Yeah, and like you think you're a beast.
That's disgusting.
But. It's just like the atmosphere there. You drink, you go to class. Go out to like 3 a.m, partying, hitting the bars. Go to class 8 o'clock in the mornings, no problem. Very little hangovers or anything. But because from Dundalk you go to Mount St. Mary's, which is like a prestigious university, right? You have people like from rich families, who are trying to keep up with them, right?
Yeah. So.
I saw an opportunity, so I knew a lot of connections down in Dundalk, and I saw entrepreneurial, opportunity present itself. So, it's like, you get in, everybody knows you, they rely on you, all the girls, like, you're the, that's who they come to.
You're the hookup.
Yeah, pretty much. And, that was fun, and that was a lifestyle I lived for a long time. And I remember, I don't know what it is about my face, but every time I get pulled over, they search my car,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And being on Route 15, copping from up in Hagerstown, I had to connect there.
Yep.
Coming back, and I remember I had driven up down the 15 to get a bag of Coke one night, and I had it in my hoodie pocket, and the cops pulled me over. And they're like, you have any weapons, anthrax? I was like,
oh yeah,
do you have dynamite or
do you have any bombs on you?
Yeah, search your car. I'm like, just cut the shit, man.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sitting there. I'm like, fuck. Like I'm going to jail.
Oh yeah.
So the cops like patting down. It's one of like the hoodies I'm wearing right now with the open, and the bag was in there. So like I kind of tilt a little bit as he's patting me down, and he doesn't feel the crinkle. So I escaped that one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Dodged a bullet.
Yeah, but anyway, like junior senior year, I get a reputation being at that university, and
good reputation?
Not that kind of reputation.
Bad reputation.
Bad reputation. Public safety, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the same people are coming into my apartment building. We scan the card to get in, and
oh yeah,
at the same times every day. So they're there for a reason, And I had a RA who tipped me off, was like, just cut it out. And I did, and also during that time I got arrested for what was it called? This possession. I had possession 2 ounces in my car. I got arrested for that, and it was just time to call it quits. And I had a parole officer, and I was getting tested weekly and could not stay clean. Like I had this like. I stopped smoking, cut everything else out but drinking. But being me, it's like
Were you allowed to drink?
I was allowed to drink. I just couldn't be drunk at the piss test. So like you remove all drugs and alcohol, I'm going to abuse whatever I have at my disposal. So I'm drinking heavy at this time, and it just got so bad some nights to where, I'm not going to drink tonight, and I'd be up till like 2 a.m. just staring at the wall. I then have to crawl out of my dorm and like, pour myself like 2 shots just to like, calm the nerves to get to bed. Well, that eventually that ends, and I entered the real world. I have, a degree in political science, but I have 2 charges on my record. I also have one of disorderly conduct because when I stop selling, I don't have money. They're telling me, hey, you can, take Xanax, snort some of this, and then drink 4 beers, you'll black out, right? And I was like, all right, bet, let me do that. So I think I just sniff a couple ladders and, drink like four beers, and I black out and wake up in jail. So it's like...
That's a common theme.
I have no idea why I got there,
You're bringing some, like, really old slang that I haven't heard. Ladders? I haven't...
Yeah.
Like, bringing some stuff that I don't hear about. Like, I haven't heard some of this stuff in a long time.
This is a throwback podcast, I guess.
For real.
Nice.
But, dude, I don't even know how I forgot this. So, months before my dad passed away, this is backtracking, I'm already ahead of myself here. So, he... sits us down for a family meeting, and he's like, hey, I want to talk to you guys. I'm like, okay, what's up? And he said to me, I'm like, 9, middle child 7, and the twins are 5. And he's like, I'm a bad father. And I'm like, what? Like, what's this about? And he's like, I've been praying, for God to take me in my sleep. I don't want to live. I don't want to go on. I don't want to do life anymore. I don't know how I missed this before.
Jesus.
And that's just like, I didn't know what he was going through.
No.
But I now know what he's going through because it's that state of hopelessness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A state of, I can't do life on life's terms. Can't go on living. I just want to die. And, if you're listening, you've probably been there before.
Yeah.
And I've been there too. It's a very lonely place. But yeah, so like I graduate, have 2 charges on my record, and try applying for jobs, and this is right after the recession hit. So not many people are hiring, and it's student loans are piling up, and I was like, well, I gotta have a plan. So they're like, let's try the military. So I was like, cool, and I go there, take the ASVAB, pass, score high, get I don't get to choose my MOS, but I'm pretty much able to do whatever I want. So I, they're like, oh, since you have 2 charges, we need a waiver to, let you in. So I see a psych doctor for 15 minutes, and I'm like, well, these charges and all these speeding tickets are like, ugly. So let me just tell him, what happened without drugs and alcohol in the equation. So
Nice.
I do that, and personality disorder he diagnoses me with. So, I'm devastated, man. Like, what else do I have to do, So, I'm out of college, can't get a job, student loans are piling up, and Army's no longer an option, So I'm like, what do I do? And that's when, like, drinking really took off. I knew a buddy at the time who worked at UPS and was like, I can get you a job in the hub. I was like, cool. And, I was like, I'll just do that while I'm looking for jobs. So we're looking, I'm working at UPS about a month in. They're like, do you want to be a driver? And I was like, sure. Like, how much they pay? And they were paying pretty well at the time. So I was like, okay, now I'm getting big paychecks. So the party's on, what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
So now, like, whereas before I was just like, weed and alcohol, now I can afford, like, the good stuff. I experimented here and there with things, but, like, I couldn't afford it. It was just, like, once in a while. So, delivering for UPS, making good money, and living that college lifestyle, coming home, like, getting that 30-pack of Natty Boh. I had, like, the hot tub and the whole setup in my house, and girls would come over, and
you had a hot tub?
In Dundalk, can you believe it?
Oh, all right. Yeah. Still, that's fucking awesome. That's a fucking hot tub.
Yeah.
That's tight.
So that was like, always the move, bringing girls back to your spot. Oh, I do got a hot tub, So
I nailed it.
Yeah, but like I did that for a long time, and at the time I'm getting injured, and I get somebody introduces me to oxys. So, I don't know what it like does for other people, but for me, I don't know. It just gave me that like I can like be myself now, and so I'm drinking, doing Percocet, oxys, like not too much at first, but how quick it progresses. And it's like this, man. Like Friday comes around, and you get that paycheck in your hand, which is a lot of like I was making good money. Friday night I'm partying, Saturday night I'm partying, Sunday I'm partying, and then Monday comes and I can't even look at myself. It's like that like disgusted feeling you get where like I was also like at the time selling Molly, and so I would like I would get off of work and by delivering packages all day, and then at home I'm a delivery boy, so like that's just like that's just who I am, let's just go with it, man. And I like it's fun while it lasts, but then you wake up that Monday and reality hits you that I have to go back into the real world. I don't want to do this, and like you're just living in constant regret, right? So like you're looking back on the weekend decisions, and you're like, I wish I didn't do that.
Yep.
Then you're looking forward to Friday because you're like, okay, I get that paycheck again. Once I get that paycheck, I'm gonna set things right. Everything's gonna be good. My point being, you're not present. You're living in constant regret, or you're looking forward to the tomorrow or the next day will be better. Yeah. And it was agonizing. Like we don't get air conditioning in those trucks, so like you're out to like like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you got to wake up at like 6, 7 in the morning, and then I have to go deliver packages all day. And you're just like 20 degrees in the back of the truck where we find our packages. It's 20 degrees hotter. So like I'm just sweating it out all day, and I don't know like how I did it, but I mean I held it together for a while until I couldn't. And like the last memory I have of my father was his soccer ball necklace. It was gold, had a soccer ball on it, and because he was my coach and everything, and that's all I had to remember him by. So I was tough on money. I mean, just like pawn this for now. I'll come back a month later. A month later, I pawn it. It lasts for what, like 2 days. That couple $100 you get from that, and then you're like, okay, well, I'll buy it at the end of the month. Well, the month went by, I never got it back. Because you're willing to throw away everything, man.
Did you ever get it back?
No.
Oh man.
My high school ring. My mom. At the time we're like, having house parties in a row home in Dundalk with like hundreds of like kids, there, and we pretty much essentially kicked my mom out of the house.
Oof.
And she would just like hide away in her like boyfriend's house who was like abusing her at the time, and she just didn't want to be around us, and like it's like those things is by any means necessary,
Did your brothers get like caught up in it?
Yeah.
At this point, or were they like away at
I'm
school?
the older brother, man.
Yeah.
They look up to me, and that whole man of the house thing doesn't never manifested itself. So yeah, so like a normal week for me, you're always broke, right? And the way I like identify myself as an addict is like you wake up on a Monday after that weekend bender, your bank account's negative. You spent your entire paycheck on drugs and alcohol.
Yep.
You got $60 in your pocket, right? A normal person is thinking, all right, man, I got, I made some bad decisions this week, but I got gas money, I got food money, I got cigarette money, $60 is enough to survive through the week. But if you're like me, I'm just like $60. All right, well, I'm getting high and fucked up tonight.
High now.
I ain't worried about tomorrow, man. Like tomorrow will deal itself its own set of problems. Like I don't want to, like I'm not gonna live that long. So like let me just live today, And and I wake up the next day and you're just like, fuck, I don't want to do this again. It's that same desperation that my father was in. Like I hated everybody. I hated people who were happy because, like, if they saw what I saw in the world and what it did to me, then, they would understand what I'm saying. And I'm just bringing chaos into people's lives. Stealing from my mom, pawning her jewelry. I'm, pretty much just scheming my way into my grandmother, who's like my last grandparent, into giving her me her money. So it's for a car, but then the car payment doesn't get paid, and I call her the next week forgetting that I asked for the money. Yeah. Just complete unmanageability. A normal week for me would be like you'd have $1.19 on a good week in your bank account. It's a Wednesday. And I don't know if you ever know this, but there's a trick. I can swipe my credit card at a gas station for 99 cents. But it won't charge. Sometimes days it takes 2 days to go through, right? So like that 99 cents on a full tank of gas will last me 2 days until that check clears on Friday morning, and then it gets processed. So I can get by. But like I don't. If I made it through a week without overdrafting, it was a victory.
Yeah.
I was feeling good about myself. I was winning in life if I didn't overdraft that week. But it just like it was honestly. Like every week you're looking forward to the weekend, and then you're just like, okay, this weekend I'm gonna be responsible. I'm not gonna go out. I'm not gonna cop tonight. I'm not gonna do all the things that is causing me problems. Bills are piling up. They're threatening to repossess my car.
Yep.
All the student loans, credit cards I ran up. I'm not ignoring them. I'm not gonna be living long enough to pay them. So fuck them. Easy passes. My guy wasn't one of the guys who'd be like, oh, I'll let you slide on $4, so I just run the tolls. And, I pay at the end of the month. Well, the end of the month comes, those tolls get racked up from $4 to $55 each trip.
Oh, yeah.
So, when I got sober and that finally hit me, I owed $6,000 in tolls, which was like, it wasn't the record, but I thought, like, I was kind of like, it was kind of like an ego shot. I'm like, man, like, he does have the record.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
$6,000 in tolls?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I had to go to court for that and everything.
Jesus. Holy shit.
Yeah, so...
that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, so I'm a chronic, every weekend, man, it's like things will be different, And then it happens again, man. You're like, you wake up Monday, and I'm calling out at work, and they're threatening to fire my job, and I just give 0 fucks at a time. I'm like, hey, man, you know, I hear I got a career going on. Do what you gotta do. I don't, you know, if you want to fire me, go for it. You know, that's where it took me. And you're using at that time, and you're drinking at that time, just, you know, not to withdraw. You know, not to get sick.
Yep.
And you know, when you get to that point, it's no longer fun, man. You know, like,
oh yeah,
you know, you don't get that same feeling. You know, and that part of your soul, man, is just like gone, and you know, just that, you know, sense of doom, hopelessness. That's you know, every day I wake up, it's like, you know, not this again, man. You know, but something happened, man. My mom, like, I ran out of gas one night. My mom picks me up from work, and you know, she's like, you know, like, do you care if you get buried next to your father? You know, because you're going down that road. And I said, I don't. You know, and she's like, you need help. And I was like, you know, I think I do. First honest thing I've said in years, you know. And that just, you know, catapulted me to, like, you know, where I am today. I called work the next day, tried calling out. They're like, we told you we're going to fire you. I was like, I need help, man. And they're like, what is it? And I was like, I can't say what it is because it's so much stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, I was like, is it alcohol? I was like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, we have a program we can get you into, you know?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, like, I was like, okay, let's try it out. So, they sent me to ASAP, which is American Substance Abuse Professionals, is a third-party, like, candidate for, like, UPS, to where they, you know, like, pretty much, like, oversee you, and if I fuck up in their program, then I get fired. That's pretty much the terms. And to this day, I am still getting tested randomly. I'll get calls in the morning where I have to go to Concentra to pee clean. You know? Wow. Yeah. People with DUIs in our job don't get tested as long as I have. So I go there, and they're like, hey, how much do you spend on drugs and alcohol in a typical week? And, you know, the true answer is my entire check. And
did you tell them that?
No. I'm like, all right, it's like $350, and they're like, yeah, you are an addict, you know, that's addict. I'm like, shit, if you only knew, you know, like, I think you need to rehab. And that was like, I only cried like a few times in my life, but I cried when I, you know, found out that they were going to send me to rehab, because it's over, man. You know, the gig's over. I can't. Yeah. Life as I knew it, you know, I have to, you know, set fear of the unknown, you know.
Did it feel good to cry?
I didn't know what it felt like, you know, like, it did feel, I felt, you know, like, this had manly macho, like, you know, culture we have here.
I'm a crier.
I'm a crier now too. I don't hide from it, you know. But I don't hold back. But you know, they came out that night. And
that's right. F you, Eric, making fun of my crying.
It's okay.
But yeah, so they sent me to rehab in Las Vegas, Nevada. Believe it or not, a place called Desert Hope. Yeah.
Damn.
So I'm going there, and it's like, you know, the rooms of recovery work for anybody, you know, as long as you have willingness. But I do believe detox centers and rehab facilities do have a place, right? Because you get that, you know, distance from that environment and that knowledge that, like, hey, I can do without, you know, because after using for so long, you know, it's like this, man. The way I understand addiction, you have your, you know, things for survival: food, clothing, family, shelter. You know, like, just that you have all those things that, like, are necessary for survival. When you're an addict, like, addiction's number one. I don't care. There would be days where I wouldn't go without eating. Oh yeah. You know, and like, then you just convince yourself that you know, I need this to live. I need this to, like, you know, be okay, because I'm not okay. There's something wrong with me, right? So the rehab was fine for me, for being, like, having that distance and knowing that, hey, like, I can do without this stuff. They introduced meetings of you know, H9 meetings at the facility, and that's when I got my, like.
Were they both fellowships, or like clean fellowship, sober fellowship? Which one?
They didn't really identify with one or the other.
Oh,
it was just, like, you know, it was called the H9 meetings, and you go there, you know.
That's cool.
But, like, what it is like, you know, people need hope to live, you know, something to, like, a purpose to, you know, go on fighting for, you know, because without it, I mean, like, you know, you're just, like, existing, you know. Yeah. So, like, I come into those rooms, and, you know, here I am thinking I'm alone in my thoughts and feelings. Nobody else can understand how I feel. And then someone tells me, like, their story, and their story of what they went through was so much more, like, rougher than what I went through. So it gives you that hope. And what I refer to is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Nice. He was a in the Holocaust during World War II,
Yep.
and he was a behavioral psychologist, and they put him in the medical tent. And he mentions in the book that, like, you know, I can diagnose men and women coming in and out of the tent if they were going to live or die based on, you know, the hope they had. You know, because those who give up hope, you know, don't have anything to cling on to, they die. You know, but those who had something to hope for, something to live for, were the ones who just like held on no matter what.
Yeah.
And then hope's everything. That's what I find. That's what we find in the rooms. You
Absolutely.
know, recovery. You know. And I get out of there, and you know, I convince myself that, you know, drugs were my problem. Alcohol wasn't. So I'm in Vegas. I'm like, I'm going to, you know, experience this. So like 30 days out of, you know, my first 30 days sober ever. And while I was in there, I was on Suboxones, and like they were like, yeah, we were gonna, you know, we can't like have you get off of it. And I was like pleading with them. I'm like, please. Like, I cannot go back to Dundalk with, like, you know, being still on oxys, because the time's going to come where I'm going to want to do it, you know?
Yeah.
If I'm going to, like, you know, suffer, let me suffer here, you know? So I just knew that about myself, you know? And
That's bold.
yeah, it was rough, but, I mean, I made it through, you know? So I get out, and, you know, I book myself 3 nights at the Bellagio. I'm in Vegas. I finally have a positive bank account because my, you know, I spent the Super Bowl in rehab. You know, income tax checks came in, so I had a little bit of money. So I'm
Nice.
like, you know, hey, Bellagio, you know, let's do it, you know. And I don't do any drugs, but like I'm drinking the entire time, you know. And that time I've passed out at slot machines. I, you know.
Oh, you were that guy.
Yeah, I was that guy. And you know, it's just like I didn't spend like a sober moment, you know, those 3 days. So when I'm on the plane ride home, I'm overlooking the horizon, terrified to death that I'm going back to Dundalk, where, you know, it's just a culture of just like addiction, and, you know,
Oh, yeah.
nobody I know sober, you know, God, like, you know, please help me, because you know, I'm scared to death. And, you know, then all this, as I'm looking over the horizon, I'm just like, you know what, you know, like, if my, you know, life decisions, my choices have gotten me to this point, you know, let me just like try this out and see what happens, you know? And I go into the rooms right away, and I do what things were suggested of me. I find a sponsor, and he broke it down like this, man. He's like, listen, you know, try this out for a year. If you don't like it, we can always refund your misery for free.
Yeah.
You know, what can I say back to that, you know? And, you know, like I probably going 2 meetings a week, you know, at the time. And this is like the first like 6 to 8 months of being sober, and my sponsor could saw like I'm still dealing with pain, you know. And he's like, "How many meetings you get to a week?" And I told him like 2, and he was like, "Let me tell you something. Hey, dude, how long you been sober?" And the guy was like 8 years. And he's like, "How many meetings you get to a week?" He's like, "I don't hit less than 4, you know." And he's like, "What about you? 13. How many meetings you hit a week?" 5. And he looks back at me. He's like, "How long you been sober?" I was like, 6 months. And he was like, well,
Yep.
You got to do more, man. Like here's a program in a nutshell. How bad do you want to be free? Do you want to live, or do you want to die? And I was like, well, I definitely don't want to die. And he's like, then do this right. And that was the hardest time of my life, was that first year, because all those creditors, all those student loans that I neglected my entire life.
Yeah.
You know, I'm riding that pink cloud at the time because I'm doing the damn thing. Like, you know, I can do this, you know, like life's awesome, you know, without drugs and alcohol. Start getting phone calls like, hey, we need our money this week. Well, like, I can't pay you, dude. I don't have money, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just getting my feet under me. So I'm getting garnished twice on my paycheck. So I'm out at UPS working, you know, close to, you know, 55 hours a week out in the summer heat, like sweating and, you know, for my money, and I don't even get to enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, right out of rehab, I met this girl because I was like, you know, what else do I have going on? I go on you know, this was on Plenty of Fish, and my brother set me up. This was back when it was free, and now like you got to like pay money for like the DMs or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, we go on a blind date, and you know, like, you know, right now, as of, you know, I'd never been with another girl outside of her, so I've been sober. We're married now, so I mean,
Nice.
she stuck with me that first year, you know, and that's when I realized like I had something special, because like,
Is she an addict?
no,
All
like,
right.
yeah, so like she like supported me through all that bullshit, right? So
Yeah.
like, here's me, man, still can't have a positive bank account. So like I'm you know, withdrawing $100 from my account. She's like, aren't you going to overdraft this week? I'm like, I'm going to overdraft no matter what. Might as well have $100 in my pocket, right? You know. You know, so she's like, you know, I was like, okay, she's a good girl, you know, but dude, that was the hardest, man, like being in that financial burden, and just like your head's in a vice grip, you know, you're just like, man, like, I can't pay you this week. I'll pay you next week. We're going to repay your card. Well, don't do that, man. Here's $100 for now, and I'm just like getting hit from everywhere, and it's driving me crazy.
Yep.
No one helped me. No one offered to relieve me of that burden. I stuck through it, and today I walk a free man financially. I just bought a house not too far from here, acre and a half of land. That's nice. That's recovery right there. So then after that first year, I go to a retreat, and you go into the rooms, but you don't going to meetings is not just what works. There's another side to this. There's power in the room. So we go into the mountains, and there's no cell phone service. It's all dudes, no TVs or anything. We're all talking and helping each other out. And I walk away there just feeling just lighter.
Oh yeah.
100%. And you come out there with a different understanding of what the program's about, and the first step even says it. It's we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. That's the first word is we. It's we're all in this together. Just because this dude might have 9 years, or I got 28 days. It's we all can help out each other. That's how we make it through this together. And I've been living selfish for my entire life. So that was one of the things I learned here. And slowly but surely, what they call a spiritual experience, I refer to as the things that plagued me my entire life just became easier to deal with. Traffic is just I can't control the situation. Someone, the reason why we're backed up is someone got killed, or probably could have gotten killed in that accident, the accident that everybody's backed up for. And here I am thinking fuck man, I'm gonna be late for work. This is bullshit. I don't want to be sitting in traffic. I gotta piss.
I'm not there yet. The traffic still pisses me off. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just all about perspective, right?
Yeah, it's progress, not perfection.
So, there's a quote I like to always bring up is Mark Twain, which is some of the worst events of my life never even happened, because it's all in our heads,
Yep.
And that's been
that's a good one.
It's a challenge sometimes, because we are always trying to run the show. Like the book mentions, we're the actor, the editor, the director, trying to control everything. And, if it doesn't go our way, we retaliate, know? So, for me, it's when I got married in October 2017. So at the time, I'm helping her plan this wedding. I'm working long hours. My sponsor at the time was going through a divorce the same time I'm getting married. So he wasn't...
That's ironic.
I know, right? Yeah. So he's not picking up his phone for me. I'm not going to meetings, and for my first couple of years in AA, it's what I refer to as rubber band sobriety, right? You come in the rooms, you hit the ground running. You're doing the steps, get a sponsor. Life is good. Hey man, this is awesome. I got this. All right, God, take a back seat. I'm taking the wheel over again. And then your life gets unmanageable real quick, and you start those feelings of insecurity come back, and you're dude, I'm going out of my mind again. And then you come back into the rooms, and it's back and forth, and then that eventually, that retracting is going to snap, man, and you're going to be faced with one or two directions. It's I know where drinking and alcohol is going to lead me. Am I going to find that familiar comfort in that, or am I going to do something different?
Wow.
So like I said, that state my father was in, that state of desperation, that's a gift. I truly believe that.
Oh yeah.
Because in that situation you find out who you truly are. You could do one or two things. You can do the wrong thing. What it is, right? But it's so tough because while it's the wrong thing to do, you find yourself doing that anyway.
Yeah.
And you can't stop it. And it's almost you're not even in control. You're just driven by impulses and emotions, and you're just on the outside looking in, going along for the ride.
Yeah.
So that happened to me. I'm getting married, and I'm in fear, man. All those those insecure thoughts, hey man, I don't deserve this, I'm just a junkie, alcoholic. I was breaking into cars 3 years ago. I was stealing from people, how did I get here? Do are things going to fall apart,
Yeah.
And, while everything on the outside is going great in my life, on the inside I'm dying, because I don't have a solution.
Yeah.
That's what we offer in the rooms is a solution to those feelings, And, I go to a meeting I don't normally attend, and some guy there was celebrating 12 years at the time, and he had something I wanted, which was happy sobriety. You could just tell it when people are struggling. If you've been around long enough, you know who's new, who's struggling, and who's doing the damn thing. That guy was doing the damn thing. I tell him what's going on, and he's like, "Hey man, come to a meeting with me. There's a commitment in Park Heights I'm leading. I want you to come along with me." So I was like, sure. So I go there and I tell my story, and it's like, people are fresh out of jail, the demographic.
Oh yeah.
And I just tell my story, and a guy comes up to me afterwards, is like, "Hey man, I want what you have. Will you take me through the steps?"
Wow.
And while it didn't change immediately, all slowly but surely, I started feeling there's that inner peace again, because I'm not focused on me. I'm focused on helping this guy, But little did he know on the outside that on what was going on me, I'm sharing my experience on the inside. I'm so wound tight, and I just want to drink again, but I know where it's going to take me.
Yeah.
And it's that realization that, hey, I got sober, for 3.5 years, working 11 out of 12 steps. There's 12 steps for a reason, man. And what I understand now is that's what my sponsor refers to as money deal, recovery. He says, he uses the analogy of a spiritual bank account. Doing step work, taking guys to meetings, reaching your hand out. You're depositing money in your spiritual bank account, right? So when times get hard, you can draw from that, and if it's bankrupt, you have nothing to draw from, and that insanity comes creeping back. And so, I started sponsoring him, and it just lit a fire underneath me. And
that's a good title, by the way. Spiritual bank account. That's solid. Just throw that down. All right, keep going.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more ego boost, But so that's what it is, man. There's 12 steps in here, and that's 85% of the program, and that's where we get free. And I can't even, I'll just go through the steps real quick. And I already said, step one, there's a we in this program. Our lives have become, we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. It's not and our lives have become manageable. There's a comma separating it. I believe it's a semicolon. So there's two separate ideas, right? We were powerless over alcohol. That's part of it, and that our lives have become unmanageable. That my life was unmanageable, and I was powerless to stop it. Step two came to believe a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. I can't get me sober. I'm insane. Something else can. So I'm open to the possibility. Step three. Made a decision to turn my will and life over to the care of God as I understand Him. Well, I flipped that into thoughts and actions, right? So it's just hey, I know I can't stay sober by myself. I realize, the rooms are working. I've seen it, people's lives get turned around. So there's power in the rooms, and I encourage people next time the meeting ends and they hold hands. It's just look around the room, take a look, and it's just that circle. We're all in this together, and there's 8 million stories why we should be dead, why we shouldn't be here. Yet here we are, laughing, crying, and having a good time. There's that's power. And I don't know if you're atheist or whatever, you can't deny that one way or the other. And it's all about surrendering, right? And I can't accept I can't control my situations, but I have to be okay with whatever result happens, And when it happens, I find it's easier, because it's fear plus resistance equals suffering. Fear plus acceptance equals serenity. Right? So I just accept my circumstances. I try not to fight it. And four, it's just to me, you're looking at your entire life, that inventory, and you're realizing all the damage you've done in your past, and all that wreckage, and you're sharing that with another person. And I encourage anybody new who's listening, don't hold anything back, because that you will drink over that. I don't, mark my word on that. And you're sharing that with another person, which is step 5, and just sharing that with somebody else, who understands you, my mom.
It's a whole weight of life just gets lifted off you.
Your mom can't get you sober. Your best friend can't get you sober. All the people that matter in your life can't get you sober. Yet, I don't even know you, and here we are, and we're helping each other out because you know who I am. And step 6 is became willing to have God remove my shortcomings. And what I understand of that is 4 and 5. Here's your life beforehand, right? And are you it doesn't say have him. Just became willing. You know, it's like, am I willing to start a new life? Here's my old life. It's on paper here. You know, am I ready to make a change going forward?
Yeah.
You know, am I willing to
Yep.
like, you know, do something different? That's like, you know, that's what I understand it in a nutshell. And, you know, and have God remove these defects of character. Here's my defects. They're all in my step 4 inventory.
Yep.
You know, they're blatant right here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those patterns just come out on paper once you write it down. And, you know, like, am I willing to change? Am I willing to, like, you know, put those aside and do something else, you know? And those, it's always going to be a part of you, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and those 2 steps, while they're only a paragraph in the book, and they get glanced over, you know, and I feel like they're crucial, you know, going back through the book with, like, you know, my sponsees and everything, it's like they're a continuation of step 3. You know, you just don't make that initial surrender and, like, hey, life is good. No, like, sometimes I got to surrender daily, you know, and hourly, you know, and, like, it's never, like, no matter what happens in my day, I can always, like, hit a reset button and start over, you know, and those defects of character, I mean, are always going to be a part of me, but they make me who I am, you know, and, like, you know, step 8 is making a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all, you know, that's how we get free, you know. Like, we you know, we wrote it down on paper. Now we got to take action, you know, and it's not easy, man, you know. And then, you know, when we share those amends with our sponsors, and then, you know, we have to put those into action. And I'll tell you what, man, I went to my father's grave, and I held this for years, you know, in recovery. Went to my father's grave, and, you know, I just sat there, you know, and just cried, because I'm like, listen, man, like, for years I'm holding on to that resentment, you know, like, dude, you chose drugs and alcohol over your 4 children, you know? Like, what were you thinking? But guess what, man? I'm just like you, right? You were dealing with something, you know, cunning, baffling, and powerful. And, you know, it doesn't matter what's, you know, blocking you from that. You're willing to just do that over anything else. So I understand that now. And, you know, I just let it all out there, like, Dad, I forgive you, you know? And I walk out of there, and I'm just like, man, like, I just feel different, you know? And that whole, you know, burden I've been carrying on for years is just, like, removed. I talked to my mom, and I tell you how I was, like, financially, like, you know, strapped for years, you know? And now money's not an issue. So I know my mom's struggling financially, and I, you know, robbed her blind, you know? So I went up to her one day, and I was like, listen, Mom, you know, I know you're struggling, and don't feel embarrassed to come to me. Before you ask anybody else, you know, for money, come to me first. And she, like, cried and, you know, put her arms around me and said, like, I'm so proud of the man you've become. You know, I love you so much. Dude, that's what this is all about, man, you know? And
that's worth everything, man.
Right. So, like, you know, like, in, you know, step 10 I do with my sponsor and, you know, my sponsorship family every night, you know? And it's just like, you know, we're holding ourselves accountable, you know? Because if I'm not held accountable, you know, like, it's just like people, you know, normally if I have a bad day, that bad day could turn into a bad day the next day. You know?
An inch can turn into a mile real quick.
Yeah, it turns into weeks into months, and next thing you know, you're depressed for a year. It just works like that, you know? And if I get that out there through my inventory, you know, the next night I wake up and, you know, it's like, okay, I can change this, you know? And prayer and meditation, improving my conscious contact with God. You know, I pray and meditate every morning. You know, I do different, you know, stuff. I get bored easy. You know, so I'm always trying different methods, different prayers. You know, if something's, you know, if I get in that, like, routine of things, I try to, like, change it up.
Absolutely.
And I have to pray, like, daily. And, you know, and 12 is, you know, having had a spiritual awakening in these steps, we sought to carry this message to other alcoholics and to carry, practice these principles in all our affairs. So, like, I look at it like this, man. I've gotten into archery in the past, you know, few years.
Nice.
And, you know, like, what I understand about...
Eric finally speaks up.
Archery, dude.
Yeah, I got a really nice bow. I haven't fired it, like, in a while, but, I mean, it's because of the weather, but... Anyway, they're, like, you understand, right? Like, if I just want to, like, you know, pull the bow back and, like, you know, fire the target without, like, doing the steps involved in it, I'm going to miss. Because, like, if I'm aiming for it, I'm going off target. You know what I'm saying? But if I do everything behind the line, you know, correctly, proper form, proper technique, you know, and when I release that arrow, it's going to go where I want it to go. And that's how I view the steps. It's like, you know, if I practice these principles on all my affairs, you know, daily, like, you know, contact with God, you know, it's like, you know, prayer, reading the big book, and, you know, carrying this message. And it's like, you know, if I do all those things, I can trust that God's going to shoot me where I want to go.
Nice.
If I'm gonna like, if I want to go where I want to go, I'm going to miss my mark every time. But if I do these steps, and when I finally, do them, the way they're supposed to be, God will put me in the right situation that I am. Yeah. And as a result of that, today, I mean, like, dude, like I was saying before, I can't even identify with who I was back then.
Yeah.
And I get reminded of that by new guys coming into the rooms, what it's like out there still, and how I'm not missing anything. Mm-hmm. And, in 5 years, man, get this, like, I'm ready to die, I'm going to be buried next to my father, and I accepted that fate. And in that span of time, I've, changed the lives of, others, my family, all my brothers are doing well now,
Nice.
And I think, that has a part to play in it. I've gotten married, I bought a new house, and I just had my baby boy, who turned 2 months this week. Mm-hmm. And listen, man, like, my boy doesn't have to, wonder if I'm going to be home, coming home that day, or, a cop's going to come to his door.
Yeah.
But the reality is, man, like, God has given me all these things, the fellowship's given me all those things, but if I'm one bad decision away from losing it all, and, like life today, I mean, it's like, am I living my wildest dreams like the book Promise like says? It's like, I don't know, man, but it's far from, like, my worst nightmare. Yeah. Which I lived for many, many years.
Oh, yeah.
And I can just, like, I'll stop here because I don't know how long I've been talking, but, if you're like new and you're listening, like, don't miss this,
Yeah.
Do not miss out on this. This program will change your life. All you have to do is become willing. There's millions of people who need this program, but only, a few handful are the ones who want it,
Yep.
and the ones who want it are the ones who make it, So the question you got to ask yourself is, how bad do you want this? How bad do you want to change? Mm-hmm. Is me, like, doing, like, just staying in my familiar patterns of behavior because they're familiar to me, or do I want to take that leap of faith, that fear of the unknown? It's like, how bad do you want it? So don't miss out on this, and thanks for inviting me in here. I had a good time.
Yeah. All right.
It was awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah, awesome, man. All right.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. You're a dick. Shit, where am I gonna go? Okay. So in 5 years, how has your addiction manifested in other ways, like outside of drugs and alcohol?
Without a solution, it takes the form of selfishness and fear and insanity. Mm-hmm. Like I was saying to you, everything else on the outside, you look at me, you're like, hey, look at John, like, he's doing the damn thing. He's married, has a kid, bought a house. But dude, like, on the inside, I'm dying, and I'm, just like wanting to, like, drink or drug, but, I know I can't, and it's just like, you want to go to a meeting, but, like, you're just, like, so, like, fearful, and you're scared to speak up because, like, oh, what are they going to think of me? Your ego's so huge that you don't want to speak up and ask for help because I'm 5 years sober or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was referring to, is that rubber band sobriety, like, I'm not doing that no more,
Yeah.
Once I, started sponsoring people, that just lit a fire underneath me. I know that if I stop doing those things, what my life is like without a solution, and, I'd rather stay sane than insane. It's an easy, answer for me.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so you were raised Catholic. Have you stayed with that faith, or have you seen your spirituality change throughout recovery, or, like, where are you at with that?
My concept of a higher power changes even monthly, Mm-hmm. As my life gets bigger, my God needs to get bigger to handle those problems. And, while I, don't really follow, like, an organized religion, for me, like, spirituality, is self-seeking. It comes from within, and that's why this program works. It doesn't matter, what backgrounds we have, my concept of a higher power might be different from yours, but it works for you. So if it works, then,
why question it?
Right. So I just, like, maybe even weekly it changes, to encompass all the things that, I've been given,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, kind of, like, piggybacking off the Catholicism thing.
Ooh.
So, I've read both literatures, most of them, from both the major fellowships. So, clean and sober. There's definitely a distinct difference between the two. If you've read both sets of literature, where the sober fellowship tends to lean more towards, like, they're both obviously God-centric, but I almost said it. The sober fellowship. I know, I was a little close there.
That was close, man.
I know.
I think I dropped it twice.
Once. I was tallying. But the sober fellowship definitely leans more that way, right? When, like, you have the Lord's Prayer, you have, like, different prayer sets that come specifically from Christianity. Now, coming up Catholic, does that allow you to be like, I came up with nothing, no religion. So to me, that's really off-putting. But for someone who's Catholic, does that allow you to kind of, like, ease into it, like, a little bit more, like some sort of, like, familiarity in that concept where, maybe you feel something, a little bit at home, like, this is kind of familiar, but, it's not, like, completely off-putting for me, where it's like, like...
Yeah. I to be honest with you, I generally just don't think about it. I mean, it's a familiar prayer, right? But I know how some people feel in the fellowship about the prayer, it being Catholic-centered, But if you think about it, it's a great prayer for sobriety in general and recovery, and it says a lot of good things. So, like, while, a lot of people are just, trying to, like, bash it for being, just kind of, like, specific to one, foundation, I just kind of, like, look at it as, as a whole, what's it saying to me, and yeah, okay, I got raised Catholic and everything, but, I fell out of, I fell out of the church, like, a while ago, and, like I said, just changes, all the time, and I don't know, like, it doesn't really give me any issues.
Okay. No, I was just, like, not issues, but does it, like, I mean, like, for me, it would be issues, right? Because I wasn't raised anywhere near religion. But, for someone who was brought up Catholic, does that make it feel a little bit safer? Like...
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
No, not
Maybe
really.
we need to talk about that with you, Eric. It makes you uncomfortable.
You know that.
I know.
We've talked about this a million times.
I don't know if our listeners do, though.
Well, we don't need to get into that.
We do a little bit.
When we do my recording, you can go full steam.
Ooh, that's going to be a good day.
I try not to put labels on things,
Yeah.
And just, like, not have any, like, I just look at it for what it is, It's a prayer that pretty much encompasses the Fellowship of Recovery and the 12 steps. So if I look at it like that, then it's not, I don't really, like, just put a label on it being like, oh, it's a Catholic prayer, it's, the Trinity, centered or whatever, Just, like, what is it, what does it say for us as a fellowship,
Sometimes you can like things and not have an explanation for them. Like, everybody has, like, a guilty pleasure music that, like, you wouldn't necessarily, like, think of.
Yeah.
Like, I love NSYNC. Not gonna lie.
Bye-bye's good.
Unless you like Nickelback, then
unless you like Nickelback, and then you're wrong. Sorry, listeners. Sorry for our Nickelback listeners.
I don't know
out
what
there.
that is. I really don't know.
They're pretty bad.
I'm not a Nickelback guy.
Nobody is, but
Nobody is.
Yeah.
Somebody. I'm sorry,
they just
listeners.
get a bad rep.
Yeah. What's your total safe question? Guilty pleasure music. Go.
For me?
For you.
I don't even know. I listen to so much.
I could see you listening to, like, Duran Duran.
Duran Duran, I wouldn't even consider that a guilty pleasure.
What?
No.
Dude, it's Duran Duran.
Solid 80s, like, post-new wave.
What about you? Total guilty pleasure that you're just like your part of you is, like, ashamed of it.
I would have to say, like, 90s, the whole 90s era.
I love
Sugar,
90s era.
I did, like, Sugar Ray.
Yeah,
they don't really get a bad rep, though. I mean, like, if you had to say about it.
Like, Limp Bizkit would be definitely a guilty pleasure.
That's guilty.
Yeah, I can't go back and listen to it, but I did like them at the time.
Me too.
Well,
Loved them.
Okay, I think middle school, like, that's not a representation.
I had the Red
like,
Yankees hat, just to say.
Oh, no. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's bad. But, like, something you still go to, no?
I'm trying to think.
You're taking too long.
Being in a city school, it was all hip hop. So I mean, probably like, I don't know if you remember like Dipset back in the day. Like
Yep.
I was a huge fan of them, and they're kind of like what viewed now as kind of clownish. But I don't know. I listen to all kinds of music as long as it doesn't suck.
Yeah, exactly. As long as it's not Nickelback.
Say Anything, probably.
What?
Say Anything?
What the hell is that?
It's a band. Simple Plan. Okay, Simple Plan. I used to like them back in the day.
All right.
You
Maybe
found
you're
glory.
metal. Yeah.
I'm everything.
Well, okay, but you don't know who Say Anything is. We grew up at like the same time, hung out with probably
know.
very similar people.
I don't know who the hell that is.
That's okay. It's okay.
All right, move on.
Will this be edited out?
No, this is going in.
Nope.
Still going in?
Everything goes in.
All right.
I guess I'll go again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Shoot.
So, with your father telling you essentially,
Ooh, I just thought my
that
goodness
he
question.
wanted to kind of kill himself.
Yeah.
You're kind of talking about the resentment that you had and like working through that. How do you think that affected you, like throughout growing up, that moment? Like, and obviously when he actually passed away, but like, do you like kind of look back on that like as kind of a catalyst for parts of, inherently, as you've described, you have genetic disposition, but do you believe that that might have helped accelerate that disposition?
I would say it did play a part in it, but honestly, like those tendencies, those behavior patterns, that feeling uncomfortable in your skin, that like living in fear, and like looking at other people and their personalities and trying to borrow some of their tendencies because you don't feel comfortable with yourself. You know what I'm saying?
The chameleon aspect.
Right. So I mean, that was always there, and I think like honestly, like it was going to happen no matter what. But I would say that what that led to was a loss of self. And just like the way I explain like recovery, like that whole journey, it's like think about all the situations you find yourself in, and you're like knowing that it's the wrong thing to do, but you're looking on the outside, just like, dude, I probably shouldn't do this, but like, you're driven by impulses, that addiction just like throws you in there.
Yep. And,
maybe if you don't look at the steps of the spiritual recovery, look at it as awakening to like knowledge of self, or awakening to consciousness, because you're aware of like everything you did, and now like you have a new sense of self. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, like that's what I would say my father did, was you lose yourself. No longer sports, no longer like, have a best friend, a father figure. Who am I, And I searched for that for years, but I didn't find it until 26 years old when I got sober.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice. I got one.
Sure.
Actually, I got two because you reminded me one. So for like my story, because I have a little sister, part of my like something that like sort of like fueled my addiction internally was like shame and guilt, like directly related to her. Like I felt like a shitty example. I felt like a shitty older brother to my little sister, and like the only way I could like numb that fucking shame and guilt was drugs and alcohol. Like how much of that, like, did that play a part for you as well? Like did that snowball like get rolling at some point?
Yeah, you look back on it, and I could have led them down. I'm the older brother; they look up to me.
Yeah.
I've never been a younger brother, but I mean, from what I've heard from people who are younger, like they look at their oldest sibling as like the hero, and they want to be like you, And when I don't know who I am, or I'm trying to find myself, and like they're my best friends too. Like having 4 brothers, you don't need best friends; you have those guys. So I remember just like all of us fighting in a car, and then pass the blunts around in the car. We're all like laughing, like quoting movies and stuff. But yeah, like looking back on it, I try not to like overthink, because like if I'm like borrowing pain from my past, then I'm not present. But yeah, it's just something I wish like if I wish I could have done something different, But like it's one of those, I try not to overthink, because it's funny how it works, right? It's like, you overthink a scenario, right? But it's so funny how as an addict and, alcoholic, that you can think yourself from this one specific thing into feeling like a piece of shit, like useless and worthless,
Oh yeah, and it's just like that Mark Twain quote. You put forth, man. Like that's a lot of the shitty things that happen in life don't never happen.
They never happen.
Yeah.
You know, and what it does happen is never like as bad as you think it is. You know.
Yeah.
And just like that's like that inner peace that the rooms have given me is like, you know, no matter what happens in my life, like I now know everything's going to be okay if I stay in the center. You know, I use that like Discovery Channel analogy where it's like, you know, the ones on the herd on the outside, the ones that are getting picked off, man, the ones in the center, they're safe, you know. So stay in the center of the programs, keep doing what you're doing, you know, then you got nothing to fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't look around the room, Eric, thinking about like wildebeests and lions. That's what you're doing. Anyway, so this is definitely, Eric's gonna be like, fuck, you stole this question from me.
It's fine.
So early in your life, you're diagnosed with ADHD and you were prescribed Adderall. How much did medicine contribute? Like, was that sort of a catalyst for future addiction? Like that, like, oh, this pill will fix me. Boom.
Yeah.
And then instant
For sure.
gratification.
Yeah, because like when, you know, I'm feeling down or something, you just take something and you feel better, you know. But I remember even like, you know, early on watching wrestling and seeing like, you know, all those vitamins and like how it like, you know, makes you stronger, boosts testosterone, you know. I'm always looking like, oh, I want to take those things. And I remember like I was in DARE program and they had like a they had like a mascot come in and like it was like a vulture and it was like, hey kids, you want some jelly beans? And opens up its feathers. I was like, yeah, I kind of want those jelly beans. They look really good, you know.
There was a DARE mascot?
Well, I thought it was
maybe it was a sketch.
Wasn't it?
You know?
Okay.
Not that mascot form, but they did a sketch
There
where
is
like,
a mascot.
Like they did, the vulture was like all black and bad, and like it was like, hey kids, here, can I have what I have? Here's some jelly beans. I'm like, yeah, kind of want those jelly beans.
That's creepy as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Good God.
But like, yeah, I've always like, you know, it's like look for things outside of myself to make me better. You know, but like as the rooms and, you know, the whole program is set up to look inside, you know, and I was always looking in the wrong places, you know, my entire life.
Yeah, man. Back to you, Eric, with the weather.
All right, I have one other question. Switching up the step question this week.
What?
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if I like this.
So it was between 12 and 1. So I think we're gonna go with 1. So you kind of described step 1 a little bit and how it relates to you. Do you believe in the idea? Do you know where this is going?
I think so.
Is this
Okay.
Do you believe in the past tense of
Nailed
step
it.
1?
Do it.
So admitted being the past tense.
We admitted that we were powerless. Do you
Do you
look
take
at the
stock
That's
in
actually
that?
a really good
Yeah.
question. I mean, maybe the word placement's kind of off, but I mean, Bill knew what he was doing when he outlined the steps. But you know, no, we still are. Like, you know.
Well, I mean, okay, but
Yeah.
okay. So here, think about it like this.
He crossed the legs. It's getting
Right.
serious.
Fuck this guy
it's
over
an alpha-
here. You
it's
see
an
this
alpha
guy
move.
right here? You see this guy?
He's doing an alpha move. I'm
So,
gonna follow suit.
Yep, we all will. All right. We're all crossed legs.
All right.
The
So
debate has gotten deep.
So with step 1, we admitted that we were powerless. Fucking this guy over here. So by using the past tense of we were, right? So by understanding, you know, that it is the past tense, as soon as we put down the drug or the alcohol, we have henceforth regained our power and now have choice over whether or not to actually use. So when we put down the substance, we aren't powerless anymore. We're only powerless. We admit that we are powerless when we are actively abusing. But when we take back that power, we then maintain choice over whether or not we're going to go back down that road. And that's what leads to the unmanageability, is when we use, we are powerless. So I don't know. There's one person in the Clean Fellowship who preaches that. And I remember I always used to like think about it, even when I was like, you know, even when I was like coming around, I was like, that makes sense. We were. But yeah, I'm just curious, like.
Your thoughts.
Well, I mean, they're but a symptom, right? Like, like, you know, the powerlessness and unmanageability, you know, is the drugs and alcohol are a symptom of the problem, which is yourself.
Yes.
Right. So like, it's like if I put down like the drugs and alcohol, okay, my life might become more manageable.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not powerless over it anymore, but I'm still dealing with myself, you know, which is the problem.
Yes.
You know, then like for me, it's just like, you know, I have to address that problem. Me putting down drugs and alcohol is not going to, like, you know, I'm not going to gain my power back, because I'm still powerless over, you know, the things that are driving me, or like, you know, they're like the impulses that are, like, you know, driving me to, like, return to those things, you know? So like, I mean, like, yeah, putting down drugs and alcohol, yeah, like, try that, let me know how it works, you know? Some people can do it, but like, I just know for me, I've seen it work for people, like the 12 steps, and I know what my life is like without a solution. You know, my life is just as crazy. I can go back to that same person so fast if I don't have a solution.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and this is why it's the best 24-hour program, you know? It doesn't matter. I can't stay sober off of yesterday's recovery. And, you know, like, if I don't do the things I'm, like, you know, I'm supposed to be doing, like, I can get back into that, like, you know, selfish asshole real quick. You know, and it manifests itself in other areas of my life, you know? And just like, oh yeah, let me play one more video game, one more game, you know? Like, it doesn't matter what I do, you know? And just like another part of the disease, I feel like, is, you know, anywhere but here, you know? It's like, man, like, if I only was, you know, when I'm drinking, you know, say like, Joe's having a party that night. Well, I hear Frank's having a party. Let me go check that out. You know, hey, Mark's having a party. Let me go there. And you're just like jumping around all night, you know, thinking that, you know, the next place is going to be better, you know. And that's what I'm left with if I don't, you know, if I put down the drink, is that like, okay, well, you know, maybe if I didn't do this, I would be fine. Or maybe if I, you know, were to, you know, do this instead, you know. But then what? You're just constantly,
then you're just caught in the loop in your head again, down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So like, no, like, I mean, putting down drugs and alcohol just doesn't cut it for me, because I can go back to that asshole real quick. It's just, you know, it's a matter of how long can I hold my breath until I can't hold my breath any longer.
Ooh, nice.
No, that's.
I see both sides of the coin. Like, I play devil's advocate. Like, I see both sides of like that, not necessarily argument, but like perspective. Like, yes, when like what I thought in active addiction is that, like, David has a drug problem, and what I found out in recovery is that I have a David problem, and drugs and alcohol were the symptoms / what I thought were the solutions, and obviously didn't work out that way. So yeah, like, I believe, like, we do gain some power in choice. That's ultimately given by active recovery. Like, you know what I mean?
There's a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's a difference between being sober and living sober.
Yeah, or being a dry drunk. Like, you can put down all the alcohol and drugs you want, but if you're not actively working on the David problem or the John problem or the Eric problem, you're just an asshole. Like, I could still, and that goes back to like 6 and 7 and so many of the steps. Like, we have all these character defects inside of us, like, that if we weren't working on these things, we can just be an asshole and miserable and depressed and constantly escaping in our mind or in our feelings without drugs and alcohol. So it's really like getting to the roots of that's real deep recovery, and like the longer you stay in, the deeper it gets.
I heard somebody share this at a meeting one time, and it's just like, you know, I can come in here and put on a front for an hour, you know, everything's good, and say the right things that people want to hear. And if I go home and I'm like, you know, an asshole the other 23 hours of the day, for me that just doesn't cut it. You know? And you know, you hear like gym metaphors like crazy, but the best one I ever heard.
The gym metaphors,
I know, here it comes again. But we had a speaker from California. We had my old home group in Towson, the 6A group, shout out.
Nice.
8:30 p.m. Towson, check it out.
Shout out.
What day?
8:30 p.m. Saturdays, Towson St. Stephen's Church on York and Register.
Nice plug.
Oh.
But like, yeah, we get quarterly speakers who come from different areas of the country. We've had different, you know, we've actually had people from, like, you know, Canada come too. So like, he used this metaphor. He said, like, you know, it's like
matter.
He said, like, you know, it's easy for me to go to the gym and just like go on and cheer people on, like, hey man, like, you know, you're doing it, you know, and give them the bumps and everything. And he's like, then you see like 2 months later, the dude's like big, he's getting muscular, and like, you know, he's looking good. And here I am, you know, just like cheering him on. You know, I'm in the gym, but I'm not doing shit. You know, he's like, and he's always like, his word of the phrase was like, get in the game. I got to get in the game, you know?
Nice.
So, like, you know, I can go in the rooms and, you know, say what people want to hear, or I can do what my job is, what everybody's job is in the rooms, is no matter what's going on in my life, leave that shit at the door.
Yep.
Come in, you got one job, which is to be of maximum service to others, you know, and carry the message. It must carry depth and weight. And if I do that, I mean, who knows whose life I'm changing, you know? But if I'm carrying in whatever is out in the world, and I carry that into the meetings, and I'm inside my head, you know, I can remember early in the rooms, just like the speaker speaking, and the entire time
You can't hear anything.
No, you're just thinking to yourself, like, oh, if I get called on, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, you know? And like, oh yeah, I'm going to hold into that topic. And then the whole time you're like, you know, the meeting ends, and the whole time, you know, like, you know, you're sitting there in your head for nothing, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's
Then
like,
nobody
what was that
calls
for?
on you, and you're like, oh shit, man,
Yeah.
I totally had a whole paragraph ready to go.
Yeah, so like, you know, just like I got to listen, carry the message, man. That's my job. That's what I try to do every meeting I go to.
Nice.
Well, and I think something important to kind of take out of like just that question about the first step
Oh,
is that
bring
we
it
have
full circle. Good job.
we have different interpretations, right? And that's good.
That's fine.
You want you know this isn't doctrine, right? You want people to work steps and to work a program that works for them.
Exactly.
It's not a one size fits all. Everything like what works for you might not work for me, and that's okay.
And I respect that,
Right?
know?
You know?
And
That's what I love.
it's like, you know,
I love it.
I don't know, there's like, I mean, it can help out so many other people, the 12 steps, you know, people who aren't addicts and alcoholics, because, like, you know, you see things that are going on out in the world today where, like, people are just, like, you know, screaming down each other's throats and don't want to hear other sides. Well, I can sit here, you can say one thing, I can say another, but I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
And I can see it from your perspective, you know, like, you don't know what people are going through until you know, put yourself in their shoes, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, it's just, like, you know, being open to that, you know, window, you know, and if I'm closed off from it, you know, then, you know, I don't really have a purpose, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever works for people
Yeah.
in the end. It doesn't really, like, who gives a fuck how people, you know, the process it takes for them to get clean, like, and stay clean, as long
Right.
as they are doing it. That's really all that matters.
Yeah, I've had sponsees who like, you know, said that, hey, I'm going to go with somebody else. And, you know, like, early on, it was like, man, you know, that I know people who sponsor people who said it's tough, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, what did I do to fail them? But, you know, like, on the flip side of that, it's like, you know, if they're staying sober, you know, that's all I can really be happy about, you know?
Yeah,
like, you
of course.
know, it's not my, it's, you know,
It's like having a
get down on
mature
myself.
breakup.
Right.
I just hope she's happy.
Yeah.
As long as she's happy, then I'm happy.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
I'm good.
You're good?
You good?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really enjoyed
absolutely.
this.
This is cool.
Well, I want to give a quick shout out to all our listeners around the world and everybody who's been tuning in. Yeah, like
Bonjour.
keep tuning in. Yeah, bonjour. We have people all over the world. We're gonna have some. We know we're like Maryland centric, and
Fuck yeah.
which is great. But like we're working with some people. We're gonna have some people from across the United States call in. We're gonna have some people from overseas call in. So like keep listening to us. Like we got.
Yeah, we won't be talking about just Baltimore.
Yeah, we
and
won't be
Howard
talking
County
about
anymore.
Dundalk and Howard
Like,
County
that's
anymore.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, we got people. We already have people lined up from other states, from other countries. So podcast recovery is growing.
You got something special here, you know?
Yeah.
Just spread it out.
Yeah, man. And now, any last words from you for all the listeners out there around the world?
Just to re-echo like what I said, you know, just don't miss this.
Yeah.
You know, like what do you have to lose, honestly? You know, like you know where your decisions are leading you. You know, if you're afraid to make that change, I mean, it's scary, but you know, you never know what's on the other side of that fear until you take that step. You know, and we take 12 of them. So
Nice. That was nice. Clap track, Eric. God, it's such a. We need to actually get a button clap track. I'm gonna buy one. I'm buying a clap track
want
so
a
we can
board?
play it. No.
I mean,
I'm
I
just
could
gonna-
just set up one of my MIDI interfaces.
No, it'll be
do
like an
it.
easy button.
I mean, I have a MIDI interface like,
Shut up,
right
Eric.
behind you.
All right. Well, we would like. That's all, Eric. You're done. We would like to thank our guest John for joining us today. You did a great job, man.
thank you guys.
Here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict and alcoholic wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict and alcoholic deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. So go check us out at podcastrecovery.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow our group. Follow our Twitter. Yeah.
We'll have an Instagram soon.
We'll have an Instagram soon. Eric's working on that. I'm working on that. We got a lot of stuff
cool
coming.
shit coming.
Yeah, man.
Cool stuff.
Thanks,
Yeah.
John. You did a great job.
Appreciate
Everybody out there, thanks for listening. Have a good week. Stay clean. Stay sober. Have a good night.